Hey, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Skilless-K coming back at y'all with another new video. And today, guys, I'm going to be doing my scrap orcust deck profile. Hope you enjoy. So, here, let me just separate these real quick. Alright. So, obviously, starting out, running 3 scrap recycler. Keep in mind, guys, this is a budget variant. So, with that being said, this is essentially your replacement Gearsu. This is a level 3 monster, so it works well with the other cards in the deck to make Xyz plays, but you're not going to be running any of the Xyz monsters that you normally run with level 3s. So, yeah, it's essentially just your combo starter. You want to summon it during the start of your turn, hoping to God it doesn't get ashed. And then you'd be either sending the next card, Crystron Rosenex. I have a Spanish version here for anyone who can't read it. So, essentially what Rosenex is your primary target with Recycler. So Recycler will send the Rosenex. Rosenex will then banish itself from the graveyard, summon a token. Use the token and the Scrap Recycler to make Scrap Wyvern and continue on with your plays. And then obviously to work in tandem with the Wyvern, we are also running the 1 copy of Scrap Golem. Now, Golem, these two are the 2 biggest bricks you can ever see in your hand. Because even with Nightmare and stuff, if you have a danger in hand, you can easily just discard it off of the danger. But then again, that relies on your opponent. You never want to see these 2 in hand. If you see these 2 in hand, these essentially kill off your scrap combo. But Recycler, as long as you have a Recycler in hand, you can at least still go into your Orcust. So yeah, that wraps up the scrap package. Moving on to your Orcust, you are running the 1 Brass Bombard, double Simple Skeleton, double Nightmare, and double World Wand. Now, why these are just specifically? Well, 1 Orcust, or a Brass Bombard. Very useful card. The only reason you run it at 1 is because you don't, you want to see it in your opening hand, but then after that, you never want to see it again. And this is only if your hand is clogged with Orcust, which is a possibility with this deck. Anyway, so yeah, essentially what you would do is that you would summon this, make a Almirage or some other link monster, and then you would use its effect, banish it, summon a card from your hand. Most of the time it's going to be a Simple Skeleton or some other monster. But yeah. And then, moving on. Simple Skeleton, banish it, summon cards from your graveyard. Pretty easy concept to grasp. And Orcust Nightmare, this is essentially your in-graveyard version of a Scrap Recycler. Basically, you send this to the grave off a Recycler, you send a World Wand, and then you summon the World, or you banish the World Wand, activate Night, and to summon the Nightmare back, and go on from there. Okay. That is actually it for the Orcust portion of the deck. Moving on to our Dark Warrior package. Here we are using the 1 Dark Grepher and then, of course, the 2 Phantom Knights. So Dark Grepher, the reason why you run him over Armageddon Knight is because, say you had a Nightmare in hand that was basically just ruining your hand, then you can discard it off of Dark Grepher to summon Dark Grepher without using up your normal summon. So, say you had Dark Grepher, Scrap Recycler, and a Nightmare or World Wand in hand, you could discard the World Wand or Nightmare off of Dark Grepher and then normal summon your Scrap Recycler to get 2 Send to Graves, which is pretty good with this deck. Then the Fam Knights, obviously, Boots is in here to grab your rank up spell, and then Cloacus is here to grab your boots. Okay. Moving on to your combo extenders. Of course, you're running 3 danger monsters in here, being Jackalope, Such, and Nessie. As for the budget portion of this deck, these cards over the years have, or over the few years they've been around, have actually become very budget friendly. Nessie, who at the time of recording is the most expensive, I found this on TCG Player for $1.19. So yeah, pretty good. And then just some generic extenders. You're running triple Caligo Clockrow. This card is really good with this deck just because of the fact that 1, it's a dark monster, and 2, if there's a dark monster on field, you can special summon it, so it's a free body on top of that. And then, yeah, those are your extenders. Moving on to your hand traps. Running double DD Crow, triple Ash Blossom, and triple Effect Veiler. Why these ones in particular? Well, since Call by the Grave is limited, this is essentially in here to make up for the missing ones. The only problem with this is that you have to banish the card right away. And even then, this can't really negate other hand traps, I don't believe. So, it is mainly in here to preemptively strike any problems. And then Ash, well, it's Ash. Why wouldn't it be in here? And then Effective Veiler, I don't have Imperm, so Effective Veiler's the next best thing. But hey, this can be used multiple times a turn, so if you get multiple of these, it'd be better to get multiple of these than multiples of Ash, who can only activate her effect once per turn. That is it for your hand traps. Moving on to your spells and traps. Double Lord Darkness. The reason I'm not playing 3 is because sometimes with this deck, this is the 5th version of this deck, by the way, guys. The reason why I'm only running 2 is because, 1, you would much rather use the space of that 3rd one for something like Call by the Grave or Instant Fusion. But the reason why is mainly just because you want to see it, but you don't want to see it at the same time, because it's very, very risky to pull it off in this deck, because all the dark monsters in here have an inherent use to them. So you don't really want to banish any of them, but it still lets you dig into your deck, so it's still pretty good. Then moving on to your one-ofs. Monster Reborn, Rhoda. Rhoda's in here to fetch out your Dark Grepher. You could take this out and use a 3rd Allure Darkness or a 4th Danger Monster, but that's really up to you. Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is in here, and I'll show you why later. In a rank up magic launch to go into VFD, and then Call by and Battle. So yeah, 6 one-ups. Quite honestly, you could cut the Rhoda, but that's all up to personal preference. I like to have it in here because if my hand gets clogged with Orcust monsters, this can potentially save your hand. But anyway, that is it for the spells and traps. Okay, dang it, now I got them all shuffled. Oh, did not mean to shake the camera there. Moving on to your trap cards. You're only running 3. The one Crescendo and then double Fogblade. These cards are really great just because of the fact that Fogblade is essentially VFD but concentrated on a single card. And then Crescendo is essentially your back row saver. Because with the amount of cards that you put into your back row, like Launch, Call by, and then of course the 2 Fogblades, you want something that can help protect it, and it's easily settable off of Galatea, and it would not be an Orcust deck without Crescendo. Let's be honest here. Let me just get these back together, and I'll show you the extra deck. Now, okay, so guys, I'm going to tell you this. This is a 14 card extra deck. The only reason why it's not 15 is because I couldn't decide on what the last card should be. So, yeah, that's why. So, okay, so starting off, of course, one Appaloosa, one Saryuja for your Link 4s. These two, they're pretty good in this deck, all things considering. The only problem with them sometimes is that you're not really trying to make Link 4s. You're mainly trying to just get your monsters out and try to OTK your opponent, essentially. Or you're trying to kind of stall them out and then trying to just poke them for damage over turns. So yeah, those are your Link 4s. Moving on to your Link 3s. You use Transco Talker and Rusty Bardiche. These two are some of my favorite Link 3s in the game, just because one, Transco Talker can easily help you go into your Appaloosa during your turn or your opponent's turn, depending if you have IP out. And then Rusty is in here because of the obvious reasons, being Fogblade and the launch. Moving on to your Link 2s, however, double Galatea, single Scarp Wyvern, one Penistag, and one IP Masquerena. So the reasoning behind these cards is because, well, Galatea, it wouldn't really be an Orcust deck without their best Link monster. Now, would it? And then Scrap Wyvern is in here for the scrap combos. Penistag is basically just a body that you would make to then go into sorry guys, my throat's kind of dry. To go into the Transcode Talker, so that way you can summon it back, and then IP is in here to make Appaloosa during your opponent's turn. That is it for your Link 2s. Moving on to your Link 1s, one Salamangreat Almirage and one Secure Gardena. These are in here just because sometimes because you could just summon the Scrap Recycler, send a card from deck to grave. If it's not going to be Rosenix because you have that in hand, you would send the card to grave, then use Almirage, then summon Almirage by linking off the Recycler, because Recycler has only 900 attack points. And then Secure Gardena is really just something to put on top of the Almirage. Whew. Okay, sorry. Also, Almirage provides protection for your monsters, so it's pretty nifty. Moving on to your Xyz monsters. Obviously, double Dingirsu, and then the one VFD. Now, do I like VFD locking someone? Of course I do. Why else would I play it in here? The only reason why I like doing it so much is because this is more of a win more card in the deck, because most of the time you're summoning Dingirsu with Rusty and Galatea on field. So not only do you get a free send off of Dingirsu, but you also get to pop a monster off of Rusty. And then True King is in here. Once you use up Dingirsu's material, you summon it with the Ranko magic and then lock your opponent out of effects for the rest of that turn. And then Dingirsu's in here to protect your monsters. And then, finally, the one card I think everyone's been wondering, what is your instant fusion target? Winda. The reason why Winda is because, here, let me just put a scenario in your head real quick. So, let's say all you had in your hand was a brass, a symbol, and a Caligo, along with a Ash, and the instant fusion. This is perhaps one of my favorite kind of bricky hands, and you're about to see why. So, first off, summon the brass. Then you could special summon Caligo from your hand, because brass is a dark monster. Link the two off. Why was I going at it from the back? Summon Galatea. Then you use Brass's effect Engrave to then summon the simple skeleton from your hand. Then you use the simple skeleton and the Galatea into another Galatea. Then you use Symbol's effect, banish itself, summon Galatea from the grave. Then you, of course, overlay on top of one of the Galateas to make Dengirsu. And in this case, you will attach one of your banished machine monsters. And then activate instant fusion from hand. Summon your Winda. Now keep in mind, this would normally get destroyed by the end of the turn because of instant fusion, but because Dengirsu's on the field, you just simply activate his effect and negate the destruction. And then she gets to stick around and be a nuisance to your opponent. And this is actually one of my favorite hands to get in this deck, just because it's so unlikely you'll get this combination of cards, but it's so fun if you can manage to pull it off, because you'll lock your opponent down, and on top of that, they have to worry about Dengirsu and Galatea, because then with Galatea, you would shuffle back your brass in the grave to have Crescendo set. So on top of having protection, summon restrictions, and just a regular 18k body, or not 18k, 18,000, or 1800, sorry, you also have a spell and trap negate. And I would say this is a pretty good opening hand, especially if you're going first, because then your opponent's just like, well, time to scoop. Unless they're able to have some way to out the win, in which I doubt it, because most of the time you're gonna have it protected with Dengirsu, so unless they're able to get multiple destructions off on the same turn, I doubt they're gonna be able to get rid of the Winda in just one turn. Okay, yeah, but that's it for the deck, guys, and I already gave you guys a free combo. Oh yeah, also another thing I forgot, you also have Ash in hand, so you also get a free search negate. This is essentially how you can go through both of your Galateas in one turn, but it's so funny when you're able to fucking pull it off. Just because they're like, wait, what? You'll link your Galatea and your symbol skeleton off to make another Galatea? What the fuck is the point of that? Oh, fuck, I forgot symbol skeleton. Alright, well, that wraps it up for this video, guys. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Peace out, and remember, stay skillless.